Welcome back to Cheddar, brought to you by HP. Tech unicorn DocuSign is waging a war on paper. The electronic signature company is working with not only businesses, but governments to make legal transactions easier. Joining us now is the company's chairman, Keith Krach. Keith, you just got back from Japan. Tell us a little bit about the trip and what you were hoping to accomplish.
Yeah, on the trip, the first thing I did was kick off with a keynote speech at the Global Digital Summit in Tokyo, which had representatives from the top ministries of Japan. Also had industry leaders like the CEO of NEC, Hitachi, and really talked about accelerating the digital transformation around the world, and in particular in Japan. And this is something that has turned out to be a national imperative for the country of Japan, and that is their digital transformation. And they've also declared a war on paper. You know, the third largest GNP in the world. They have the second largest amount of paper per capita, and they really have a big focus on improving the productivity of the office workers in Japan, because they've robotized all their factories. And you know, the other big thing that's going on from a macroeconomic standpoint is that in 10 years, 30% of the population of Japan will be over the age of 65, and they have to take care of them.
Right. Well, we appreciate you joining us after maybe you're not getting over your jet lag just yet, but we do want to talk to you about the future of DocuSign. Lots of talk about an IPO and the possible future, a near future for you guys, unicorn status. Tell us about what the plans are from your perspective.
Well, we haven't set a date for our IPO. I obviously get asked that question all the time. But just last month at our Worldwide User Conference here in San Francisco, we announced the statistics for the DocuSign Global Trust Network. We now have over 300,000 companies that have standard on DocuSign, and over 200 million unique users in 188 countries. And we're putting on 300,000 unique users a day now, which is up from 150,000 a year ago.
And where are those unique users coming from? Are they usually smaller to medium-sized businesses, or are you signing up accounts based on big enterprise contracts?
Right. It's literally across the board. So we have 13 of the top 15 banks in the world, 13 of the top 15 insurance companies, 14 of the top 15 pharmas. So all the way from Fortune 1 all the way down. You know, in the U.S., what we're known for a lot is in the real estate business. Now, you know, probably 90% of the real estate transactions are done with DocuSign.
Keith, you were founded, or DocuSign was founded about 14 years ago, and of course, IPO talk has been going on for a while. What's kind of taken so long? You don't usually hear about companies waiting 15 years to IPO.
Well, you know, the way that we look at it is this is one of the biggest opportunities in the world, in this whole category of digital transaction management that has emerged, and we've kind of emerged as that global standard. So we've been focusing on that land grab around the world. And, you know, you take a company public, there's a lot of distractions in terms of the top leadership team and the rest of the company. We have plenty of money in the bank. It's also given us an opportunity to integrate our equity financing strategy with our business development partnership strategy. So investors with some of the most powerful companies in the world, like Intel, Dell, Microsoft, Google, SAP, Salesforce, Visa, NTT, Deutsche Telekom, FedEx, are all part of that DocuSign Global Trust Network. So we've been really keeping our heads focused on that.
You're valued at about $3 billion according to multiple reports. How much money would you be looking to raise? And could you maybe narrow the window for us a little bit, if it's the next year or maybe in the next year and a half?
Yeah, you know, I think you could see something happening, you know, could be as early as the beginning of next year. And, you know, in terms of how much we'll raise, we really haven't, you know, put a number on that. probably your classic amount that the company would raise of our size. And in terms of revenue, we should be the largest enterprise SaaS software company that's ever gone public.
You've worked really closely, obviously, with the government of Japan. Do you see yourself working with other governments on these projects, or is this a one-off?
No, I think what we're seeing in Japan, we're seeing around the world. I was just also in Germany. Chancellor Merkel has put a big emphasis on their digital transformation, arm in arm with Tim Hodges, the CEO of Deutsche Telekom, and we have a great partnership with them. So we're seeing it there. We're seeing it in countries like Singapore. We're seeing it in France. And countries are putting a really big effort in it. And I think Japan is one of those countries that really has a ton of focus on it because it's such an imperative to improve the productivity of their office workers.
Well, what about here in the U.S.? What do you see with any work with the Trump administration, or do you anticipate doing that?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of opportunities in terms of bridging between Silicon Valley and Washington, D.C. It's probably been a little more fragmented in terms of the U.S., but hopefully we'll see that change in the future because it is so critical to the competitiveness of the United States as well as commerce around the world. Now, clearly, a lot of the high-tech companies are here, but I think there's some great opportunities in terms of what we can do in Washington.
I want to turn the attention here now to the way that the board is structured at DocuSign. I believe you have 12 directors here of your board, which is a pretty large size for a board. And some people have said that, according to studies, that boards with fewer people on them, the companies that have boards with fewer people on them tend to do better, and that having a lot of board members can sort of weigh things down. Now, given what's happening with Uber and seeing the importance of board members of startups or companies that are still private, talk to me about your role specifically and how you see the size of your board specifically being either a benefit or a detriment to maybe the way that the DocuSign is run.
Yeah, I think, if you look at our board, we have some incredible people on the board, all the way from Mary Meeker, who's perhaps in history one of the best financial analysts ever, to Lou Levine, the former CFO of Genentech, the CFO of the decade in the biopharma area. It is a board that is diverse in terms of industries, in terms of functional areas, and we get a lot of our strength from that diversity of thought. And it just happens to be large, of course. That sometimes can be a challenge, but I think it's a great blessing when you look at the caliber of board members that we have.
Who do you think of as your competition? I mean, you guys really were early to the space in 2003, but since then, of course, many companies have emerged. Who's your main competition?
Well, the competition, there's no doubt about it. It is paper. Because what we're doing is we're automating approvals, agreements, decisions that were all paper-based before. And I love how Ryan McInerney puts it, the 40-year-old president of Visa. He goes, what Visa's done to payments is what DocuSign has done to documents and transactions. He goes, our enemy's cash, DocuSign's enemy is paper, and that is it. And I think that represents such a tremendous opportunity out there globally.
All right, Keith Krach, chairman of DocuSign. We'll wait for signs of your IPO. Thank you so much for joining us.